Special good morning to our listeners. Special good morning to our viewers. It's Classic Radio and GBN TV. Welcome. It's To The Point. I'm your host, GT. Welcome those of you also via social media platforms, Facebook page, YouTube channels. Good morning once again and welcome. Let me say good morning to the Honorable Senator David Andrew with us this morning, Minister of Education. Good morning to you, sir, and welcome. How are you doing, sir?
Good morning. I am doing well, thanks. The important things are good,
yes,
and that keeps me in a good space. I have good health. My family is fine. And the important things continue to be important. So
I like
and I'm happy to be here.
Important things continue to be important. I like the way you put it like that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes the important things that ain't important. Eh? You know, you ever figure that out?
Yeah. So that's a good thing. And I'm always happy to be in studio to be able to share on and give updates on the happenings in the education sector, knowing full well that education, and I believe education is one of the single most transformative tools that we can use for our nation's development. So very, very happy.
So to get that going off the bat, we already a bit late in terms of our start this morning. The Ministry of Education under your tenureship for the last 4 years, how has it been for you, sir?
It has been a very rewarding experience.
Yeah.
I am happy to have been at the helm of the Ministry of Education over the last 3 years when so many, I would say, important and transformative things have happened. And we can talk about universal secondary education, its reintroduction, where everybody has a chance to move on to secondary school. We can talk about the elimination of the fees, games fee, lab fee, security fee at schools. We can talk about the TAMCC and NULO free tuition policy, where we encourage persons to go on to post-secondary education. We can talk about the introduction of Grenadian history into our schools. We can talk about the commencement of several infrastructural projects in our system. We can talk about key initiatives to have the creative arts expanded in schools, skills expanded in schools. So there are several things that I think are critical, and critical to that too, even the Monroe first generation scholarship opportunities that have started since earlier this year, which target first generationers. So all of these genuinely transformative things, I believe, have impacted the system quite positively. And the cooperation from the staff of the Ministry of Education has been phenomenal. The Ministry of Education is a ministry that literally doesn't sleep. I say this because we have the school term where we know students are in school, teachers are operational, parents, PTAs, everything happening, and you have to manage that, you have to administrate that, and there are always issues, whether it's a student here, whether it's an aggrieved parents there, whether it's some teacher who's not compliant, whether it's, various issues, and you have the school feeding and all of these things that you have to manage. But then even when the July period comes and people go off on vacation, and who are in the States and who is wherever,
work continues.
The work continues, because we have to ensure that come 1st September, schools reopen, and there's a team that dedicatedly works to ensure that the teacher appointments, the teacher reappointments get done. So all of these things happen in the quiet of the August period. The quiet,
I understand.
But that ministry doesn't sleep. And even though for the last few months we have been operating away from our central ministry building, because as the public would be aware, we have been operating, there have been some repairs happening at the central ministry building, and we are happy that the Ministry of Infrastructure is facilitating that. But it's gone on since April. And so since April, we've been out functioning at the ground floor of the ministerial complex. And some staff, since that area can't hold everybody, have been functioning from home, staggered. But all of the operations have continued. People continue to get pay. The personnel department continues to function, the registry functions, all of the essential services function well. And I want to commend and express public appreciation to my staff at the Ministry of Education, the PSs, and all staff for the dedication and commitment during this period and throughout the entire 3 years that I've been as minister, just to summarize my stint so far.
As I said, education is continuous. You always have to keep learning, and as a ministry, you have to continue offering, making the opportunities and whatever else in between that has to take place for the continuing process of the learning of individuals, especially the running of schools and everything else has to continue. As you said, not because it's a quiet time for August doesn't mean that you wait until September to start to do stuff. It's going to be good. I want to get another, of course, your take on this. We know that teachers has been clamoring for regularization for a long time. It's nothing new in terms of the conversation in relation to that. Tell us about the process. Is there a new process that is happening now in terms of the continuation of the process that starts under the last administration, or is it something new that the GT has raised and so forth that is taken place? Talk to me in relation to that. Well, in your last, and just before you get it, in your last briefing, you did mention the regularization and so forth of the teachers and stuff. Talk to me in relation to that. Right.
So I know the unions, for instance, have been clamoring for that for years.
Yes.
But to answer your question more specifically, it's neither. This administration has committed to regularizing teachers. In fact, the backlog of teachers that we've had in the system came because teachers were not being regularized sufficiently under the previous administration. Okay. So we had people who had continuous contracts for sometimes 10, 15 years. But we recognize that if we are going to give our workers and teachers in particular the kind of stability that they need, and if we are going to demand of them or require of them to function effectively and efficiently, we need to give them tenure. And so it became a policy position of this administration to ensure that we regularize teachers in keeping with the payment of pension and the new pension scheme and all of that. So a framework was developed by the Department of Public Administration, and we started, in fact, and that is supposed to happen across all of the public sector, and it is happening as far as I know, but I can only report on teachers since it falls under my purview. But we have been able to regularize, in 2023, 112 teachers.
Okay.
And that was the first tranche. And in 2025, we did a further 216 teachers. And we did set some criteria. So those are persons who were in the system for more than 5 years, who had the requisite qualification to be teachers, and who at the time had a positive appraisal done. So they're working well, and they meet all the qualification, and they've been there for over 5 years. So that's the batch that was processed and started processing since 2023, and we have 216 now done. We have a further 105 in process.
Yeah.
And that's already prepared and being submitted. And that 105 teachers will take the remaining teachers, probably those who at the time didn't have 5 years, but they were probably over 3 years already.
Okay.
And that will bring us current. Once we get those approved, that will bring us current, and we'll now have to continue regularizing teachers as they complete their period of probation. It's 2 years generally.
So is regularization with a form of probation with it also? Is that what you're saying?
No. The probation period is a standard practice in most workplaces, and education is no different.
Especially when new ones come in, then more.
Yes, when you come in as a new teacher, sometimes you're given a year or two probationary. You might call it temporary, you might call it contract, you might call it whatever, but it's a period where you get to be observed and to see if you really like this thing, if you really cut for it, if you're teachable, if you can grow, if no major things show up that would debar you, it's time to just regularize you, formalize your appointment, and ensure that. So that's where we will be once this 105 that's pending now gets regularized. So, but we are very, very happy to have regularized these numbers of teachers, and it shows the government's commitment to delivering on its promises to give more decent and credible work conditions to our workers, and in particular teachers here.
All right, happy to hear that. And I'm sure there are teachers over there are happy to hear that news also. It makes a form of feeling comfortable doing the job, knowing that you there's a process as the probation goes through, as you mentioned, and you get regularized. It brings that level of comfort to in terms of going to work on an everyday basis. I want to switch the conversation with also to the school feeding program, sir.
Right.
The program has had some serious criticisms. Was it last year or even so forth? We had some serious criticism as it relates to that. This week we heard persons calling on the community to donate to schools and so forth to help with the program. The government, of course, in their approach of this specific program by removing the dollar and so forth that was taken away. Tell us what's that new initiative that government is planning to put into this right now to make it a bit of an ease. There there are always going to be concerned parents in relation to that.
Right. So, I mean, the government took the policy position to discontinue any charges
Yes.
for the school meal and to make the school meal program absolutely free. We still believe this is the correct positioning. And in fact, the members of the public could validate us, because when I walk into the communities and I meet parents and they say, Minister, you don't know how much we appreciate that. The two things they talk about a lot, the tuition, and many of them talk about the school meals, because some parents have 3 or 4 children in schools. And let's say they're in secondary schools, where you pay $3. That's 3, 4, $12 a day. Put that with every other thing, it could be quite a little challenge for some parents. And so the parents are quite appreciative. We are quite confident that this policy decision was the correct one from the feedback we get from persons. Now, persons want to suggest that probably the dollar would make things more available. There's no shortage of money. There's no shortage of financing. In case that's what people think, that's what persons might be thinking, there is no shortage of financing to support the program.
Okay.
I want to make that abundantly clear. So bringing back the dollar, some persons suggest, is not something that's going to answer the challenge that persons face. And in fact, when the dollar comes, we have to talk about accountability for it. And sometimes people don't want to answer that part anyway, you see? But the truth is, there are some logistical things that affected the program last year, which we own, because when you have a program that moves from feeding 10,000 persons to 16,000 persons after we make the policy shift, and that's what has happened. There's been a 60% thereabout increase in the uptake and the following for the school meal program since we've made it free. Over the last 2 years, it's jumped from 10,000 plus beneficiaries to over 16,000. And there are some little logistical problems. So we have suppliers, for instance, who supply goods to the schools in different communities. And sometimes we have challenges with some of them. They might take bigger orders in other places before they prioritize us. Now, admittedly, the government doesn't have a warehouse, so that the government doesn't supply it directly. So we have to work with those suppliers. So we have to continuously be in touch with them. And sometimes our payment systems within the public service. So a supplier might say, listen, I don't want to give you anything because it's 2 months now we're waiting for a check. So you might find these little glitches happening. But I tell you, most of the suppliers work well with us because they understand the payments will come. And in fact, we screen them well and we say, listen, government systems don't always work as quickly and you get your pay. So can you be able to wait a couple of months? Okay. And we're trying to ensure that the period of wait is minimized. But sometimes these things happen. But we're working with them. They've been very generous. And I think sometimes the communication is a challenge. Because you hear a lot of the clamor and a lot of the outcry, and 3/4 of the times, the ministry is unaware. When you see people calling on phones and talking about stuff and saying things on Facebook, 3/4 of the times, the ministry is not aware. And I'll tell you why I know. When I hear that as minister, I call my PS. PS, are you aware of this particular issue with the school feeding? No. I call the CEO, who is directly responsible for schools. Are you aware? Do you have any report of this particular challenge? No. I say, well, where is the authorization to close the program? Or where is the authorization to tell parents that the program has stopped? No, and I believe if a little better communication takes place. In fact, we have had situations where persons, principals, responsible principals, once they see there's a shortage brewing, they call the ministry, listen, supplies are running out, how do we fix this? And our department in student support quickly would step onto it and instruct the suppliers to deliver and ensure that the program continues. So I don't think we have a crisis, but I think we just need to tighten up on the communication channels to ensure that there's a smooth flow of monitoring and communication between the schools and the ministry so that we can address the challenges that show up. But more importantly, we now have about 16,000 students benefiting daily in the school feeding program. The free
so
meals
are
program.
you clear to say that this new school year we will see a better running of the
yes.
process?
Yes, it's our intention. As we go, we are continuously...
there will be glitches, we understand.
Of course. But we are continuously trying to improve. So, for instance, within the first week, last week, when teachers had to report for the week prior to schools reopening on Monday gone, we had supplies already delivered to schools.
All right.
Yeah, to make sure that we had no bumps, no glitches for the reopening of schools. So we are always keeping our fingers on the pulse as far as school feeding is concerned to ensure that we have minimal challenge. Now, one of the things that affected us last year too was the fact that we had a food aid officer who coordinated the delivery and distribution of food, and that person was transferred. And we took quite a while for our replacement to be approved.
Okay.
So we didn't get a replacement. That means we had to function without that critical person who had all of the institutional knowledge about how the program works in terms of supplies. So, I mean, but you see, we don't go to the public and outcry that
sometimes it's critical
we have that particular challenge, yes. So we had that affecting us, but we've since gotten that position filled.
Okay.
So it's likely to have less of these challenges as the person is in place and has been there for a few months yeah.
So. But so we, of course, we do for a break. Let's take it. When we come back, we continue the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the Point Classic Radio, GBN TV. We coming right back after the short break.
On Sunday, November the 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center, Legends Promotion presents the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert featuring the best of Grenada, along with 2 special guest artists. This edition promises to be extra special. Get ready, Grenada, to be blown with surprises at the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert, Sunday, November the 9th, 5 p.m. Grenada Trade Center. Stay tuned to GBN for more.
GRENLEC Community Partnership Initiative.
On behalf of the Ministry of Carriacou and PT Martinique Affairs and local government, and by extension the government of Grenada, we would like to say a heartfelt thank you to the Grenada Electricity Company, GRENLEC, for coming on board with us to partner for the Build Back Better initiative by providing furnishings for the homes. And furnishings include beds, mattresses and other things, and we want to say that it has positively impacted the residents of those homes who have already benefited, and for those who will benefit, we know that it will positively impact their lives as we work together to recover Carriacou and PT Martinique.
GRENLEC, energizing our community.
Are you ready to take charge of your money, build wealth, and protect your family's legacy? Then join us on October 9th, 2025 at Radisson Grenada Beach Resort for your Financial Future 2.0, Legacy, Literacy, and Liberation, a one-day financial summit designed to break cycles, build wealth, and leave a lasting legacy. You'll gain real-life budgeting hacks, a money mindset reboot, steps to create generational wealth, and practical tips on investing, estate planning, insurance, health, and business finance, all from expert speakers to turn knowledge into action. With 2 inspirational keynotes, 3 powerful panel discussions, and 6 breakout sessions, you will leave with your personalized action plan for success. Don't wait. Secure your seat today. Tickets are EC $350 at disruptiveleadershipconference.com/YFF. Your Financial Future 2.0. Your next chapter starts here.
Welcome back, listeners. Welcome back, viewers, once again to The Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We had the Honorable Senator David Andrew with us this morning. He's the Minister of Education. Honorable Minister, welcome back once again. In our previous conversation, we spoke of the regularization of teachers, how the process is going. We spoke a wee bit about the school feeding program. I want to get a wee bit on the the assistance that government offers to students. In particular, in the various school, we're talking about the uniform assistance and all of that. Speak to me in relation. How is that going on for this year?
So I'm happy to report that this year the school supplies and uniform assistance program has gone very well.
Okay.
We have had this year in excess of 2,750 applications to the program. Now, that's a program where parents can, through the school, apply for that uniform and school supplies assistance. And once that information is filled on a form through the school and sent to the ministry, it's uploaded, verified, and then a QR code is generated, and that is used in collaboration with some vendors of school supplies, where the persons can use their QR codes to shop, to get school supplies. So that's been happening. We've had over 2,750 or so applications.
Is that an increase or decrease if you have those figures in comparison?
I think it's probably in the same zone
as previous years.
As the previous year.
Okay.
Apart from the first year when I think there was a glitch and there were somebody said it on Facebook and all kinds of stuff like that, and it ended up so the channel wasn't properly respected, and we had probably over 9,000.
Okay.
But that kind of stuff. But the up to date, we have in excess of 2,400 of these persons, and that was of last week when I did the press conference. So I'm sure by now almost all of the persons have benefited. The persons who have not benefited, probably there are glitches. Like one person called and said they lost their phone, because it has to have, the application has to have a
QR
phone
code that you mentioned, and that is sent to the phone.
Yes.
Okay.
So somebody sent a house line, that won't work. So that would be a person who wouldn't get through. Somebody's phone got damaged, and they said, "Oh, I have to get a new phone." So these are cases that you would see somebody say, "I still didn't get the assistance," because
so there's some re-verification has to take place.
Yes, or a new number has to go back in the system and that kind of stuff. But by and large, most applications have been approved, and to date we've spent in excess of $500,000, about over $501,700 have been spent as of that time to support persons in that regard, the school uniform and assistance program, and persons are quite appreciative of that as well. Right?
All right.
One of the other means of support that we give to students is the e-books.
Yes.
And the laptops. So this is a provision that we are making. We are providing laptops, quality laptops. And I want to make a point here, because we have had occasions before when devices were distributed, tablets were distributed. And of course the urgency of COVID and all of that forced us to do things rapidly. But we've learned from those times, because then the quality of the devices were brought into question. They suffered significant breakages, and the ministry had continuous cost to repair. Now the technocrats are telling me we have secured, paid for laptops, not tablets, for the Form 1s and 2s that are of military grade.
Okay.
That's the description they use for me.
So we're looking at some durability.
Yes, durability, military grade. And on those laptops for the Form 1s and 2s, we will have installed electronic copies of the book list, the books that are actually used. Now, there were some attempts to use ebooks prior, but the ebooks were never the exact ebooks, the exact books that are used on the book list.
Okay.
And that provided problems for uptake.
A little off the syllabus sometimes.
Correct, because the page numbers are different and teachers have to do double work in the ebook, the actual book. But now we are getting rid of that problem by ensuring that the ebooks that are provided or installed on the systems are actually the book list. And there are a few of them that will not be provided on the ebooks. The hard copies will be provided, Grenadian history and material will be provided for visual art, health and family life, and some of the others. But probably 90% or more of the books will be provided on ebook, and the others will be provided, and material will be provided for those.
So is that a shift from the free books program now going to ebooks instead of that free book? Is that free books program still in existence?
Yes, the free book program is still in existence. But you see, we want to modernize the system, and we are transiting, but we want to do it in a phased way. So we're not trying to just overhaul the system. So the hard copies remain and are being circulated in the system as per usual. So that doesn't stop freely. But we're saying for the Form 1s and 2s, we are providing a laptop at a cost-sharing arrangement. And let me stick here. So we are going to have an arrangement where the government will pay most of the cost of that laptop.
Okay.
So either 60 or 70% of it. And the parent will have to pay 30 or 40%.
And at a phased approach, I assume?
Yes. Yeah. So you can pay it off one-off, or you can pay over a couple of years or a couple of installments, as you might be able to do. Now, the critical reason behind that is to ensure that a bit of ownership goes in.
Okay.
People value things more. They attach more pride to it when they pay something for it. And we've learned those lessons. And so while we want to give it and make sure it's not prohibitive for them, we want to make sure something is spent. And from our calculations, the 40% or the 30% wouldn't be more than $500 or so $100. I don't see it going past $600 or $700 at highest. If we go to the upper end, the 40%.
Okay.
And that could be paid off over a period of installment. So I'm confident we're heading in the right direction. We have worked with Book Fusion out of Jamaica to get the ebooks, and that the contract is for a 3-year period. So the licenses have been secured for 3 years. So we're going to continue to work with them, and within that period, we review and determine how what adjustments are made going forward.
Okay, great. Minister, there was that latest experiment with the experimental with the school bus system. Is that still operational?
That I know. The pilot phase, we have not had the assessments done yet.
Okay.
Of course, it wasn't led by the Ministry of Education, so I'm not in a position to talk or to speak authoritatively about it. But we are waiting on the assessment and the evaluations of it, and I'm sure once that comes, we'll have a more informed position and let the nation know about how we proceed with it. But I know it's something that we will pursue because I think it's game-changing for transportation and school students' attendance.
I mean, and once it works, get it to work properly, it could be of good benefits, especially for parents getting children back and forth to school. As we move on, still in some of the local activities, I want to keep my mind, the children of closure, sir, there has been that extremely, rough times for them getting to, and I'm sure you've been hearing the conversation in relation to that. Does your ministry have any plans to assist those children at all in terms of, especially with the conditions of the roads and so forth?
Right. So the ministry doesn't at the moment have a specific plan, but it is something that we did raise. I had a preliminary conversation with the Permanent Secretary in relation to that, but we haven't taken any decisions yet. But we know that the Ministry of Infrastructure was working with the community.
Yes.
To ensure that there was a shuttle system. So we are going to observe, and if we think that there is a need for additional support, we probably will chime in. But I'm hopeful that the provisions made by the Ministry of Infrastructure in terms of the stabilizing the shuttle arrangements that I know was discussed and operational, then that will continue to help, and if it doesn't, then we probably will consider additional support.
Okay. There was also some pictures circulating. I saw that in relation to the Florida government school, sir. So what is the situation there?
So the Florida government, it's one of the schools that we have done for rebuilding and reconstructing at the current site. But to facilitate the construction at the site, we have to prepare to house the student population elsewhere. And you might see some wooden structures going on up there at the moment. That's because the intention is to temporarily move the student population into those structures once they're ready. And once that happens, we can now have access to the current site to be able to do construction of the Florida government. It's a school that's been long awaiting construction. I haven't made any public announcements of it yet because I prefer us to work much more than we talk, and when we do talk, the work is significantly advanced, and that's been the case and history with the Ministry of Education. But that's what's happening there at Florida. But I'm happy to to report that. So whatever is happening there is preparatory for the actual construction work on the Florida Government Primary School.
Okay, great. Carriacou and Petit Martinique. I have to tap in on Carriacou and Petit Martinique. What is it like? What's the situation like with that in terms of schools? You know, there was a situation with Dover. What's any updates you can give in relation to that?
So all schools are open and functional in Carriacou, including Dover.
Yeah.
Dover is accommodated in some wooden structures on the Windward preschool site. All the other schools are up, operational and functioning with minimal residual effects from burial. I say minimal. There's one preschool that has been accommodated in one of the main buildings that we are in the process of looking at reconstructing, but all students are in building.
Okay.
And even Petit Martinique preschool, St. Thomas Aquinas, completed. So in the case of Dover, we have had consultations with the school community in Dover, showing them the designs, the proposed designs. So we're working with infrastructure, and a design has been proposed. It will include sections for skills in the Dover area. They've approved it, they like it, and we're ready to go. So it's not just a matter for infrastructure, the Ministry of Infrastructure, to do their processes, the tendering, to do the engineering designs, because the conceptual designs were presented. And based on their feedback, we'd make adjustments. And it's just a case for the engineering designs to be tendered, and then usually that takes a process.
Yeah.
But the students are properly accommodated. Even in Mount Pleasant government, all of the school population is in the main building, no tents anywhere.
Okay.
Right? They're all properly accommodated. And fortunately for the Dover school community, we've had some extended work done. So they're getting a new staff room, they're getting some storage areas that wasn't part of the initial plan.
Okay.
So they're benefiting a lot more, kitchen up and running, they're getting additional facilities. The preschool, that was the last area being treated with, but all of those areas are treated well, and students are properly accommodated in all of the schools on Carriacou.
All right. I wanted to speak a little bit about the Monroe College, first generation scholarship. Of course, there's lots more benefiting from it. Talk to me in relation to that. How was the process? What more can we get from that coming, you could say?
Right. So there are a lot of exciting things happening with Monroe, but the first generation scholarship opportunity for me is a game changer for many families.
Yes.
We have a goal as a government to have at least one university graduate in every household. And so this first generation scholarship opportunity directly targets that, because it means that we go into families where nobody in that family has gone to university before. And that's the target population.
Yeah.
So it's not my family where I have a degree or 2 degrees and my wife has a degree. It's not that. It's about the families where nobody has gone to university before.
Okay.
Nobody has a degree. And that's the people we are targeting. And every year we are trying to get at least 50 of those persons from 50 of those households starting a degree.
Okay.
With Monroe University. The partnership is established. The agreement was verified by the Legal Affairs. It's ongoing. We've had the first batch in 2025 in January, where we had just about 35. In April, we had another almost 18. So that was just about, a little over 50 there. And that constituted the first cohort that we ought to have had since last year, but we got off to a late start, so we did it in January. And that's why now in September, again, as we speak, there is another cohort, this time not just of 50, but of over 60.
Okay.
Because our agreement is to have a minimum of 50, but of course we have to balance that with budgeting and all of that. So we have just over 60 persons approved for these Monroe scholarships. Most of them are going to start online. There are a number of them who are scheduled to go on the New York campus in January. Now, the challenge with that is that we have to wait and go through the visa application process.
Yes.
And hopefully they're successful. If not, we'd have to see what other alternatives can be pursued. And those are, so we're using online heavily as far as we can. But it's my desire as minister that each student will get an experience of going abroad, having at least a semester or a year or some part of your study program in another culture, to be able to experience something different as part of their educational uptake. But it's a very transformative program, and we are happy to. We've had over almost 200 applications for the 50 slots.
Okay.
So there's a vetting process, there's a screening process, there's a selection committee that interviews them and determines which applicants are successful, and we thank them for their work. Also, we are having some interesting discussions with Monroe. As you ask what are the benefits, with Monroe University we are doing collaborations, for instance with TAMCC. They have discussed the development of a 2+2 program, which means that when you come from TAMCC, once your programs are well aligned, that 2 years you do would require you to do only 2 more years at Monroe to complete your degree once the courses are aligned, and credits can be transferred. So that's exciting for us with Monroe. And we look forward to that. Programs for teachers and teacher training in there, and all the other areas that they have. The 2x2 is also something that excites us as a prospect.
Listen, we drew for a break. Let's take we come back with the conversation. Stay with us, folks. To the Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. We'll be right back. Don't touch it out.
Championship glory awaits as the world's greatest athletes are converging on the world's greatest platform in Tokyo, Japan. The likes of Kirani James, Anderson Peters, and Lyndon Victor. 3 titans ready to clash in the ultimate battle. Who will reign supreme? Will it be Kirani's speed, Anderson's precision, or Lyndon's power? It's the World Championships from Tokyo, Japan, from September 13th to the 21st. Follow the action live daily on GBN Television.
Stumps ready? The biggest party in sports is back. It's Republic Bank CPL 2025. Bowls off August 14th to September 21st. 34 matches, 6 teams, 6 nations. Your Caribbean cricket frenzy. From big sixes to deadly yorkers, catch every boundary, every wicket, every moment. Live on GBN TV and Classic Radio. This is not just cricket. This is CPL 2025. Don't miss a ball.
GBN's broadcast of CPL 2025 is made possible by Republic Bank, Hubbard's, Glen, Echo Blue Limited, Demerara Mutual Life, Answer Coatings, and Flow.
On Sunday, November the 9th from 5 p.m. at the Grenada Trade Center, Legends Promotion presents the 19th annual Hubbard's Legends in Concert featuring the best of Grenada, along with 2 special guest artists. This edition promises to be extra special. Get ready, Grenada, to be blown with surprises at the 19th annual Hubbard's.
Welcome back once again. Welcome back to our listeners. Welcome back, viewers, to the Point, Classic Radio, GBN TV. With us this morning, we have Senator the Honorable David Andrew this morning, Minister of Education. Minister, welcome back once again also. I want to move to, there's been some conversation I heard also being part of your briefing, that national math strategy.
Yeah.
I want you to talk to me in relation to that, dealing with the maths underperformance and so forth that we have seen, especially from CXC and so forth. Talk to me in relation to that.
Yes. So I'm not happy to report that the performances in mathematics have been woefully inadequate. And it's not a new occurrence, so it's not something that's just started. For decades, the performances in mathematics have been abysmal. And it continues to slide, and not just in Grenada. So it's not something in isolation. It's a regional occurrence across the region, and as ministers of education, it's something we all have to grapple with. But for me, as Minister for Education in Grenada, we have to shoulder our own responsibility, and we have to take responsibility for the performances of persons in mathematics across the country. And so we've been developing a mathematics strategy that includes a number of interventions to arrest and address the poor performances in mathematics. Recently, we had a 2-day math symposium that was in July, where we had math professionals, retired math people, math teachers, math enthusiasts, heads of departments, principals, teachers included, as part of the 2-day discussion where we dissected what really isn't working in math, what works, what isn't working, what are the challenges, what are the gaps. We also had Dr. Lois George, who is the senior math lecturer at the University of the West Indies, Mona campus, Jamaica. She came down and delivered the feature address and was able to serve on panels and able to share very instructive insights into some of the reasons believed to be contributing to the poor performances in math. So all of this was geared towards getting further information to help refine that same math strategy that we're talking about. Now, inside that strategy, there are a number of interventions that we are undertaking. One was to have a research conducted into the practices of mathematics instructions in select numbers of primary and secondary schools. So that was done by our very own Dr. Andre Martin, who himself was a math teacher, a former principal of the St. Mark's Secondary School, UWI PhD. And it was instructive, some of the gaps that he found and some of the findings, and all of that was shared in the symposium, whether qualification made a difference, whether years of experience made a difference, whether training made a difference, the perception, whether teachers felt they were doing a great job, and how, whether that aligned with the teachers saying they're doing a good job here, and whether that aligned with the performance of students, or whether students felt the same way. Yeah. So a number of things were pointed out that gave us good material to dissect further. So that was part of it. But one of the key things that we are doing, starting this Michaelmas term, is the introduction of specialized mathematics teaching in a select number of primary schools. Now, that we believe is one of the key interventions that will help to address the math issue. Because as obtains now, in every primary school teacher teaches everything, for the most part. You may find some schools where at the grade 6 level or the grade 5 level, some teachers decide, okay, I will do the English for all the grades and you will do the math. I've seen that happen. But that's not a policy position and it's not a widespread practice. Now we are ensuring, starting with these 14 selected primary schools, that only persons who are trained in, competent in, and prepared to deliver mathematics instructions teach math across the entire primary school. Right? So that it eliminates the possibility that you'd have people who are not as competent or persons who are not confident in some areas teaching math and omitting some areas, glossing over some areas that they're not confident in, teaching around content even. So we are confident that this some 23 teachers have already been trained. So that since last term, we will be paying those teachers. They've been trained in preparation for this. They were trained in the Summer Institute as well. And there'll be continuous development and training for those teachers as they embark on this specialized teaching of mathematics in the primary schools. And we hope to continuously broaden and increase the number of schools in which we do that at the primary level, because that already obtains at the secondary level. So that's a huge intervention for us. There's also a number of 30 teachers being trained with the Advancing Certificate for Teachers in Mathematics Act. That's a project in partnership with the Commonwealth of Learning. So we're doing training with teachers to ensure that they are au courant with the methodologies necessary and that they are comfortable with what's required to effectively deliver in mathematics across the system. But so we have our fingers on the pulse, and
hopefully we see an improvement in the math results over the results. CXC 2025, tell us in relation to that from the ministry point of view.
Right. So the official preliminary results have not yet been issued because the ministry prefers to wait on all of the queries. Normally after the results are given, you'd find some results come back with not or absent when probably in fact things were sent up. So those queries must be made, they must be sent, and then when CXC make the final adjustments, then we could finally give the final results. But some preliminaries have been done, and we know we have some excellent performances in some areas. But let me say off the bat, math continues to perform poorly. But of course we're addressing that, and we're hoping over time it works. So I think that it's even last year it was 31. I think it's gone down to 27 27 or 29 or somewhere there. We're not happy about that, but it's the truth. And we're prepared to tell you just that, the truth. But we are working on it. And there are some areas, English for us is over 80%, it's 80-something%. I'm just trying to remember off the top of my head from the preliminary figures that we saw. And there are a number of areas where we had 100% passes. And so generally, I think many of the areas have performed well. But we continue to suffer with mathematics, and we continue to want to deal with that. And I want to pause and just congratulate all of the students, their teachers, their parents, and the entire school community for the hard work that they've put in to the students' performances. And I want to wish them well. We continue to work to ensure that post-secondary education becomes a lot more accessible. TAMCC, free tuition, NULO, wherever it is, post-generation studies, first-generation scholarships. So we want to encourage them to continue going further on post-secondary. But congratulations to all the schools and their performances.
You have any update for me on skills education in particular? You know, this is something that goes a long way, especially for the younger generation today. Seems to be a field that a lot of them have a great interest in.
Yes.
Tell us in relation to that from the ministry point of view.
So skills education, we continue to champion skills. Now, a number of things have happened. We have expanded the offering of skills programs in primary schools. That's continuing. We've hired itinerant technical teachers to go to the schools that don't have a center. So we're making sure that they are exposed and initiated in skills. We are retrofitting a few schools in terms of skills. And I forgot to mention, part of the strategy we have for math, we have math labs.
Okay.
About 6 math labs currently being constructed in various schools. But along with the math labs, we also have skill centers being retrofitted in some schools as well. So that is to increase the capacity of our primary school population to have access to skills. So that's happening. But more medium to long term, we talked about mainstreaming skills and developing centers of excellence. That is ongoing. So we have 4 areas that we are focusing on at the moment. We have put together a team whose responsibility primarily is to see those centers of excellence materialize. So we're not talking about the same regular people who always have the mainstream things and school feeding and everything else to deal with. And that team, we've been engaging in 4 areas. Agriculture, because we want to have a center of excellence for agriculture development, we want to have a center of excellence for marine studies. We want to have a center of excellence for construction, and we want to have a center of excellence for tourism and hospitality. Now, the reason those sectors have been targeted, and there are others, but in this first phase, these are the 4 that we're targeting. These are areas that are all closely aligned to Grenada's economic development. And if you examine those sectors, there are areas that need hotel and tourism. Once we talk about the executive chefs and the supervisors and the middle managers, most of these people are not locals, come from abroad. Okay. We have to fix that, and our education system needs to address that. So that's part of the thinking inside of there. So we've been engaging the stakeholders, and the team has been engaging the stakeholders with a view to either leasing, renting, working with some of the persons in the sector to flesh out how we're going to do that. Right. The same is happening with the marine studies. We are looking at the TAMCC campus in Carriacou that was destroyed in Beryl to have it reconstructed and have it become a specialized center of excellence for marine studies. As you would understand, fishing, boat building, marine is part of the livelihood of Carriacou and Petit Martinique. And so we thinking of developing it in a way that, one, the courses are done, the programs are done, are internationally certified. So we're talking with players from New Zealand, keen to the yachting industry. We are talking with some of the local marinas because we'll need that kind of boat yarding access to create that program. We're linking with key regional partners who have expertise in those areas, so that the programs, when you finish them there, you really recognize not just locally, but regionally and internationally. The same is true for agriculture. There's a lot happening there already in conjunction with the Ministry of Agriculture. So we're working with the farm school, the TAMCC campus there. Yeah. We want to transform. The dormitories are being repaired. There are currently programs being done in conjunction with youth. So things are happening there. There is a plan to expand, do new programs. We're in touch with some of the universities that are key in agriculture, some from Canada. We met with the council and the principal that when the programs are done, they're internationally accredited, and we're going to do state-of-the-art climate smart agriculture, apiculture, aquaponics, those areas that are modern and trending agricultural areas to ensure that we have food security. So that is part of the plan. The groups are working, even the livestock. So when the Ministry of Agriculture got their 400 and something animals, that's at the farm school, and they're using that as part of the setup to strengthen the program, and that team is working on it. So a lot of good work is happening as we speak to mainstream the skills, and ultimately we hope that those skill centers will become part of the mainstream offering of education, so that after third form, students have the option not to restrict themselves to just staying in school, but to say, listen, what I really want to do is furniture making, so I could veer off after third form into furniture making, and they can come from whichever school and go there. And so that's the thinking, but it's a complete package that we're working with.
Can I maintain a focus in terms of what they want to do?
So that's where we are.
I know that the phones are going, which means their listeners and viewers want to, of course, tap in. I want to ask you this. We touch a lot on regularization of teachers, reappointment of teachers. I don't think I heard you mention anything in relation to that.
Yes.
It's always a subject of concern for all.
Yes. So I'm happy.
Before we start to entertain the calls.
We have had requests in 2025 to reappoint 169 teachers, and we are happy to say that they've all been submitted to the Public Service Commission, and of that we have 100 primary school teachers and 51 of the 69 secondary have been appointed. So we more than 80% complete with that, and the few that are left is just a matter of administrative things. Okay. And they will be soon reappointed as well. So I don't envisage that we'll have any challenge with teacher payments, certainly by the end of September. It's my projection, but we are well on course for smooth working. We've learned lessons from things that have happened before, and as I say, we always keen on improving and tightening and becoming a lot more efficient in our ministry.
So we're going to give this opportunity to our listeners and viewers. And folks, we do have a limited time for the call-in segment this morning, so I beg of you, listeners and viewers, when you call in, be very brief with your questions so we can accommodate as many callers as possible, because we were given only just an extra 5 minutes on today's program. Let's go to the phone line and entertain our first caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Telesford. Thank you for the opportunity. We're usually succinct. Good morning to your guests. It's bit of fresh air, quite refreshing, should I say, to hear the utterances of your guest, Mr. Andrew Andrews. I'm not quite certain which.
And David Andrew.
And I wish that these utterances move to the other step. Tangible and intangible efforts placed in to enhance the quality of education in this country so that we move from the stage of ignorance that had permeated our society to some semblance of wisdom within probably 5 to 10 years. I'd certainly like to live to see that, Mr. Andrew. But here, my question this morning, I want to ask this in your capacity as a senator. Only recently you participated at the end of August, conversations within the parliament to approve 2 laws relative to the alteration of the Constitution Order 1973 of Grenada. My question is, can you convince me and other interested Grenadians that the method used to make the alterations coincide with the manner, and I underline this prepositional phrase, in the manner specified by Section 39, subsection 1, and Schedule 1 of said constitutional order? Can you verify that you convinced that it was, quote-unquote, well done in the manner specified by the Constitution? Thank you very much and have a nice day. Will you, sir?
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
Right. So thank you very much, caller. Very interesting question. It's not a question that I'd want to comment on at length, simply because that discussion we did have at the Parliament. Now, I am convinced from my research and from the guidance of the legal luminaries, and we have one of the foremost constitutional minds in the region, I dare say, in Grenada. And this is not something that started with the government's idea per se. The citizenry said, listen, we champion this, and the government listened. We looked, because we are listening government. It made sense. When you looked at it, when you did all the review, we were guided. I sat and I listened to Dr. Francis Alexis and his team and followed carefully. And from all that I saw, all that I read and reviewed, we did have all of the appropriate opportunity and leeway to be able to do that. But I think it's a discussion that we can have probably on another forum, since I'm mostly prepared to discuss the education matters, but I'm satisfied that it's a correct move in the right direction,
Okay.
as was done.
We do have another caller. Caller, you're live. Good morning. Welcome. Caller via WhatsApp. Let's hear from you and be brief, please, caller.
Good morning, GT. Good morning, Mr. Minister. Mr. Minister, I have two quick questions for you. All right. I was just listening to a program before you came on about closure, all right? And then we are hearing that students have to walk in water and mud to go to school. And I mean, that is very call for concern. So I want to know, what do you think about that? Do you ever been in the area? And how could we remedy the situation? My second question is that we know there is always a challenge every year with school opening, and some school is behind. But concerning the Florida government school, I look at the structure and I see that you haven't finished, you haven't painted. My question now, would you give us like a timeline when that school will be ready? So that the children will be able to get back in school. And we heard that some of the... All right, I'll leave it for another time, but this is my question.
All right, thank you, caller. Thank you so much, Minister.
So let me clarify. The students are in school. The students are in school. Every school opened. So don't get it twisted. The students of the Florida government are in school in their current school building. The wooden structures you see going up are structures in preparation to accommodate them, because there are major repair works to happen on the building that they currently occupy. So nobody's out of school. So let's get that straight. And we just being proactive and preemptive to prepare the buildings before we tell you. So nobody's out of school. Once we are satisfied that the temporary structures are ready to accommodate the students, we will advise the public, we will work with the school community, and that's why I say, GT, we prepare to work a lot more than we talk, so that it will happen. And of course the stakeholders are aware, so that's what's happening. In terms of the other matter, it's something that I will personally follow up on to ensure that whatever support can be given, we do offer.
Okay. I did post a question in relation to the road condition at the closure. Yeah. We do have another caller. Caller, live. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning, Jay, and good morning to Mr. Andrew. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Caller, I beg of you to be brief, please, sir. We strapped for time.
Well, as a parent, it costs me more to send my child to school because I have to buy everything, down to a toilet paper. Now, you spoke about bringing back the $1 for lunch. And I never disagree with that dollar, because I believe that the school feeding program is an important program, and I believe that the dollar was important for the schools to raise money to provide the lunch for the children. So I never support removing it. Secondly, you speak about the laptop for the Form 1 and Form 2. But I'm saying to you that if most of the parents are praising you because they cannot pay $1 for lunch, how do you believe that they could come up with $700 to $1,000 to pay for a laptop for their children, which the children will need that laptop because it's very important for them going forward. So it's very, very important that these children get this laptop. Because anybody who don't have this laptop, they will get left behind. So I'm just saying that we need to provide the laptop free for the children. I believe that one need to provide free for the children, because it's very important for the children.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
So thank you very much, caller. I respect and appreciate your opinion, but I strongly disagree with it. You see, we have taught our society there's nothing free. There is absolutely nothing free. And if our students and our children don't get to understand that, we're teaching them something false. Because even if you get it without you having to pay, somebody pays for it. Right? And the psychology tells us that when you do pay something, you function better. So two things I want to say. One, I never said $700 to $1,000. I mentioned 3 to 5 and probably to 7. So it's not going to be more than that at all. So it never will be up there.
You did say 30 to 40%.
Right, 30 to 40% of the cost. So it's not up to 1,000 at all. And we do have mechanisms for the persons who are most indigent and the persons who are least able to be able to get that. Yeah, so don't feel worried that persons will be left behind. Nobody will be left behind. So that is not something that's likely to happen. I think there was one more thing he said that I wanted to mention, but I don't quite remember.
I think I slipped on it also. But let's entertain another caller because we lose track for time. Caller live via WhatsApp. Good morning. Go right ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go right ahead, please, caller.
Good morning, JT, and good morning to the minister. Yeah, I heard the minister mentioning about education, and most of all, talk about mathematics. But when I've been a parent and been around school for many occasions, or many years, one of the things I've noticed, most of the times they come up with policies about mathematics, they bring in doctors, they bring in whosoever. But one of the things they fail to realize is to incorporate the persons who have the challenge. How many times did they ever consult the students? Did they ever have them in forums or ask them what are the major challenges in mathematics? So I think they leave up the main ingredients or the main recipients, which are the students, because they are the ones that always will have to sit the maths, and they are usually the ones that struggle. So you need to sit down and find out what are the challenges that they have during that period of time. And I think that will help them or help the ministry to come up with a better solution, because the children are the ones affected. So always try to incorporate them in that process. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you so much.
So I'm happy to report that the ministry is spot on, because we did exactly that. In those fora that I talked about, students were very much involved, and we are always engaging the persons who are affected in those matters. So student engagement is almost a standard feature of our engagement. And in that particular context with the mathematics, we did include them. They were very much front and center. If you go and look at the clips, you would see students from various schools present as part of the discourse.
All right. Of course, I think that's it. We may have one more caller, which will be our final caller for the morning, and then we take a wrap for the calling segment, and we get to round off. Caller, you're live. Go right ahead, please.
Morning, GT, and morning to the Honorable Minister. I'm glad to get the last call. I like to take very radical approaches. Two issues. One is that the World Bank, sometime earlier this year or late last year, came out with some report or so that actually giving a thumbs down to the education process in the Caribbean, say it has failed or it's failing. I don't know if the minister is aware of that. The World Bank is the last organization I'd like to cite, but they are very influential in our life. So has the minister seen that report, and has he anything to say? And then the final issue is like we have brewing troubles in the Caribbean, the possibility of war. And nowadays, you have, armament that could reach far range. Are we thinking about what would happen to the education system if, for instance, conflict breakouts? Trinidad is one of the places that will be targeted because of their involvement in or support of the U.S. Are we thinking strategically how we going to deal with the continuing of our children's education and the education process in general? I believe in foresight and thinking ahead of what you would do if in eventuality. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you. And that's our final caller for the morning.
Yes.
Respond to the caller.
Yes. So thank you. On the latter matter, I think COVID was a disaster that taught us a lot. And we have learned several things, and it's part of the reason we have this IT infrastructure within education, the e-books, that could facilitate some remote form of learning. So there are key takeaways from that period that we will be able to tap into, strengthen, should we have any disaster. And it's not just the potential for that, it's almost any disaster. So I would lean on that, and once that becomes something that we have to tap into, we have certain things that will be triggered, and the infrastructure is already there. To answer the first question about the World Bank report, I did see the report. I read it. But if you go through the report carefully and you listen to you follow carefully what this administration has been doing, you would see that what we have been attempting to do aligns with corrective measures to what they've been talking about. For instance, That report talks about the poor focus on skills education. That World Bank report. Now, if you listen to all that we've been saying and doing, we are aligning skills within the system. They talk about poor alignment of products from the education system to the world of work. Of course, we know that's been a challenge, but we are doing the best we can to align the education system simply with skills to that. You talk about the poor performance in mathematics across the region. It's a fact, but we are addressing it. So, yes, caller, we've seen the report. I probably will not want to say all that my thoughts could be on that matter, but we have seen the report. But I am confident as Minister for Education that we are responding, and not just responding, but we have been doing the things that matter, that don't make this report entirely relevant to where we are going and what we have been doing. It is true in a general sense that traditionally we've missed the boat in terms of aligning school and work and that kind of stuff. But as an administration and from our policy position, I know we are doing several things correctly to fix those. Even the scholarship policy, we didn't even get to talk about that we are targeting particular areas and sectors within the public service that we want to train people in. So we send some surgeons to train in Guyana because we need certain specialists within the health sector. We're sending people to train in health technologies in preparation for the hospital. So we are doing these things strategically, and that aligns well. So yes, we've seen the report, but we are doing what we believe corrects, and already has started correcting some of those things. That
Minister, I want to ask you, of course, just a brief, wrap up before we take a wrap for today.
Yeah, well, I am just happy to be the Minister for Education at this period, a period when I think so many transformative things are happening, and I think I've been blessed by the Almighty to be given the opportunity to lead the nation's education affairs. Yeah. I believe in education. I came from a background where all that has made a difference was education, hard work, and good values. Education, hard work, and good values. So our parents raised us that way, and I will say to every young person, this government is making education so much more accessible. Whether it's the free tuition, whether it's the Monroe Scholarship, whether it's the other scholarship opportunities that we have, the tuition assistance. And I want people to take them. I want people to take the opportunities, but don't just sit down and expect everything to come to you. You need to want it. You need to push for it. You need to make it happen, because that builds character. It builds a certain strength in you as a person that makes you resilient, that makes you mentally strong, emotionally stable, and able to cope and to manage. And I want to encourage people, young people in particular, to embrace those opportunities and let education count for all of them in the same way that we are prioritizing education across the government and the ministry and the sector.
Senator, of course, David Andrew, I want to thank you a whole lot for being on today's program. As always, constructive conversation every time we have you on the program. Hope we could do it sometime in the future again. So until that again, so have a good day.
Thank you.
Wishes. Thank you so much also. Hey, folks, that's we're going to take a wrap for today's edition of To The Point. We're way over time this morning. Have a good one, folks, as we say goodbye.